You need this shit in your life.
What's up, y'all? It's Animane, and I'm coming back to you guys with another episode of Unsigned Hype, where I take a creator and/or work that I desperately need more eyes on and put the eyes on them. And today I'm joined with someone who is very special to me. She is a friend, she is a creative partner, she is the voice of Catherine Scarlett in all the promo material for the Spider Circle, and she is also an illustrator in her own right. And we're here today to talk about her brand new coloring book, Black Girls Are Magic, a coloring book for girls who rock. I'm here with Danielle Arrington. Danielle, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I live. Sometimes that's a good thing, usually a good thing. Every now and then I lament the existence, but here we are. We can only play with the hand we've been dealt.
Yep, yep.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, what you do, all that good shiz.
My name's Danielle Arrington, and I'm an illustrator. I've been drawing my whole life, and I started out more as a graphic designer when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do as a career. And then I realized I don't like this as much as I thought I was going to. And I really just miss drawing and coloring and being more creative in that way. So I think the beginning of 2019 is when I quit my job and I decided to focus purely on pursuing a career as an illustrator. I'm still a graphic designer by day, but by night, I'm really pushing my illustrator career and trying to get that off the ground so I can eventually do that full time. But mostly, a lot of my work focuses on girls of color. I really wanted to create characters and illustrations that I wish I had seen growing up, just more Black girls doing things you don't normally see Black girls doing, just existing for one in the media, and it's just showing off that we can be knights and wizards and save people and be princesses and all those things. So that's what a lot of my work focuses on because I grew up on a lot of fairy tales and I was definitely like a Disney girl. So I just wanted to create, and I still want to create just more diverse characters for little girls to look up to.
I'm not the type of person that really prioritizes diversity as like the most important thing. I think it does matter and it is important for people to see different types of people, all doing cool stuff. And I flipped through the pages of this book and I just am in love with your art style here. I love the way you design it. It's so simple, but there's so much going on. Like right now I'm looking at the page about the little girl being an astronaut,
Mhm.
and this definitely looks like a book that, well, not necessarily I would have had when I was little because, or maybe I would have. I wasn't super ultra hyped up about like things specific for my gender, but like this definitely looks like something I could have seen back in the day. Matter of fact, she reminds me of what's her name from Magic School Bus, Keisha.
I don't remember what they named her. I know who you're talking about though.
Yeah, the little black girl off Magic School Bus. This definitely looks like her. This looks like her, and this is so adorable, and it's just so heartwarming. Like, not that I wish I had a kid right now, because oh God, no, not ready. But if I did have one, this would definitely be in their little toy chest or whatever. What were some of your inspirations, like when it comes to either the way you draw characters or the things you focus on with your work?
I grew up with like I was probably born with a crayon in one hand and then a book in the other.
Hmm.
Like, my mother was very adamant on, just reading and creativity, so I grew up on a lot of fairy tales and folklore and mythology, and that stuff always fascinated me, along with the whole, like, Disney princess thing. I learned that, like, the Disney movies were based off of, like, other fairy tales, and I was like, "Oh," and so I just even absorbed all of that, even the grim tales I got into when I got a little bit older. So those things really appealed to me, just that sense of magic and wonder. And we don't usually see a lot of brown people in those stories, at least the ones that get uplifted the most. But then we have shows like Happily Ever After, Fairy Tales for Every Child. I grew up on that, and that also just blew my mind because it was all of my favorite fairy tales, but the characters looked like me or they looked like friends of mine who weren't necessarily white. So
Yeah.
I just want to
Yeah.
keep things like that going. We don't normally see brown girls depicted as astronauts or princesses or even knights or just people who are capable of doing all these wonderful things. And so I tried to create as much diversity in the book as I could. So there's sort of a little shout out to our black athletes and like gymnasts, like our
Mhm.
Simone Biles and
Yeah.
like those people. But then there's also a few fantasy pages. We have the astronaut one, a shout out to black girls being scientists and that sort of thing, just to show girls that they can be more than just a handful of things that they may have been, exposed to on TV.
It really is slim pickings out here. And like if I could go on like Twitter right now and ask folks like who their favorite X-Men is, you're gonna hear a lot of Rogue, Wolverine, and you'll hear some people say Storm. She's the most popular of like the black X-Men, and she's still immensely popular in her own right. But if you were to ask folks like who's your favorite,
Hmm.
it seems sometimes I kind of get the feeling that we're still relatively low on the list. So and when you really only have one really noteworthy X-Men who's even black means that we're not being featured a whole lot. And then that sort of leads to the issue where okay, it's really going to be more on us to create more representation of that type if that's what we want to see. And then like you, I grew up. First of all, I loved Happily Ever After. Like my favorite was I think Rumpelstiltskin because it was so freaking good and stuff like that. For to show for kids, I think is important just to show them, that the world out here really is vast and has all types of different people in it. It's something beautiful, something to be celebrated. But when you're in a like a population where you don't make up a very large number, it's going to be a while before you see more examples of that unless creators like you take the reins and say, "You know what? I'm just gonna do something featuring these people." Every now and then, it's good to have stuff like that. It's good to have stuff like the Boondocks or Static Shock. Everything can't just be, just put a white person there. Like there's no need for that to be the case all the time.
White doesn't necessarily have to be the default. Yeah.
Exactly. I know that here in the West, that's the majority of people. It's a strange feeling being someone who's in a minority group and who wants to create and has the idea to feature folks who are not in the majority group heavily in their cast. Because on one hand, it's like, okay, one side will give you flack and say, oh, you're just leading with race, you're an SJW, you're just that, and the third. And then the other
Mhm.
side will look at you and they will critique you to death because you're not doing stuff right. Like, oh, you didn't draw this hairstyle right. You didn't draw this nose type right.
I'm low key terrified that someone is going to not like how I drew the characters in my coloring book. I was trying to keep things simple, but
Hmm.
still very clear that these are brown girls.
Yeah,
We come in all shapes and sizes. So hopefully people get that and they feel that and that's not a feeling that people have about it, but it's interesting just going back to what you were saying. I guess people might feel like it doesn't matter, but not seeing people who look like you definitely affects you whether you realize it or not. And I have a memory of being like maybe 5th grade and I was showing my mom my sketchbook and she was going through it and looking at all the characters I had drawn, and she was just like, these are beautiful, but why don't you draw any brown people? Why are there no black people in here? And it wasn't even something that I had considered, but every person in my sketchbook at the time was like a white girl with long blonde hair and tiny noses. That stuck with me. I was like, why don't I draw people who look like me? And that's kind of heavy for like a kid to be thinking about, but we don't really have the luxury not to think about it, but for so long.
true.
And so from I sat with that for a few weeks and was just like, why don't I draw me or people who look like me? And so at that point, I made more of an effort to get comfortable with drawing myself and my family and other kids who look like me or characters who look like me. If you gather them all up, it seems like we do have a lot of them, and I'm grateful for the ones that we have, but
Absolutely.
it could always be more.
Yeah.
So that was just something that had affected me at a young age, and I realized that I just wasn't drawing people who look like me, and why is that?
I think most Black American kids go through something very similar. I used to love to draw, and I'm low key getting back into it, but I noticed in the stuff that I would draw or when I got like character creations because after a certain point they started to put the option in video games to make your own character. And I would notice, I would look through the options and either there wasn't anything for black folks or there was like maybe one option and it was like the most crispy burnt ass black options you could ask for. It was like if there was an afro, it looked just like a slave. Like there was no actual thought into putting this in there. It's like if you remember Mr. Satan's afro from Dragon Ball Z, like his afro looked better than the afro options they had in these games.
Crispy burnt and somehow still ashy.
Exactly, it's crispy burnt,
Like
ashy.
the shade of brown was just never the
Mhm.
right brown.
Or it'd be like purple, and I'm just like, why are we purple now? But it was just so strange being a kid who, on one hand, I loved Spider-Man. He was my favorite superhero growing up, and I loved Nightcrawler, like right behind him. But I was starting to notice things a little bit more. You'd be like, all my favorite heroes, I don't have a whole lot who are black. And then I sat and thought about it. Is it that black heroes are bad? Like, no, I like Storm. I like some black characters from video games. There's just not that many of them.
Mhm. You really have to look for them.
Yeah, like, and the ones I did find, it made them so much like, I would pick them every time, like, whenever me and my friends would sit down and play Streets of Rage 2, I would insta-lock Skate so fast. Or anything that just had that black character where I'm like, "Oh, that's a black one and they're cool. Oh, yeah, I wanna be that one. Oh, Storm's in this game for X-Men versus Street Fighter, I wanna be Storm." It was a strange time being a kid growing up, especially in the 90s, because we had gone out of that sort of, I guess you could call it like pre-diversity era of like the late 70s and 80s where there was maybe one or two black characters, but really mainly everything was still white or just not black. And then coming up in the 90s, you had stuff like Recess and Hey Arnold and Rugrats, and we were starting to see more. If you just did a quick glance, and you'd see, okay, maybe there's one black character here, but it just felt a little different.
Mhm.
I wouldn't necessarily say it hurt. It just felt strange, like something's not right about this. But I'm really glad that you took those experiences and used them to motivate you in a creative way to increase these things. And like you said earlier, to give little kids the books and characters that that you would have loved to see as a kid. I don't want to just take like Goku and slap a black cone of paint on him. I
Yeah.
don't, I want to make something that's my own, but that just represents my background, my upbringing, my culture. That's what I want to do, and I love that you're doing the same exact thing here with your stuff. And this, tell other people what else have you created in this vein?
I'm actually working on a few projects right now that I can't talk about.
Ah,
NDA says no, but those will be coming out in the next year or two, and they're kind of in the same vein, just focusing on people of color. I guess I can say one of them focuses on someone from our history, and then the other is just a story about a brown girl, but it's not about her being brown. She's just living her life.
thank you, Jesus, Mary, Vishnu, and Ram. Because if I get one more story that focuses on black people, that's all it is about them being black and the struggle. I think I'm going to throw a mountain
Yeah,
that
like,
oh
it's
my goodness.
definitely important to learn about those things and to not forget about the struggle, but there's
Mhm.
so much media about that that is just like, "Okay, but I want a story about a black cowboy," or
Yeah.
or, like, somebody going to go save the planet or find the cure to this disease, this magical disease, or, just something. I want that
Mhm.
grand fairy tale quest, and they're black and that not be, like, their whole identity.
Thank you. Like, so much is about Black struggle. Like you said, sometimes we just want a black cowboy or astronaut or epic quest.
Yeah, and there's gotta be a balance to it, right?
Yes.
Like, the struggle, but in, like, small doses, please, because
Yeah,
I just wanna be able to enjoy this character without so much of the struggle, like, we know, but what about my black girl and my black boy joy? What about that? Like, that's what I
exactly.
want right now. In the world we're living in, I feel like that's what we need right now.
Desperately, because definitely, not only is so much craziness going on, but every single thing ever is always reminding you that the craziness is here. Like, it's becoming harder and harder to just unplug and escape. Everything at some point, like your favorite shoe company is going to have Black Lives Matter plastered everywhere. Your favorite video game is going to have an unskippable 10-second ad about remember this person or this thing. Did you get the shot? Did you get this? Are you wearing your mask while you're playing the game? I'm like, I come to this to get away from the real world. Stop bringing it here,
Yeah, the real world kinda sucks right now.
please. But we
And some
just,
things are unavoidable, like, some
mhm.
things are just gonna be inherently political, like,
Yeah.
just the nature of things, but not everything has to be.
And when you have so many entities that are explicitly taking these political things and they're either making the fictional things be about the political stuff or they're putting some spin on it that's a direct correlation so that the instant you look at it, oh, like, oh, another Donald Trump reference. That's only the fifth one this week. Okay, I was gonna watch this and enjoy myself, but more current day politics. It's beautiful, beautiful. I love when you put that stuff in there. And the thing that kind of infuriates me a little bit more is they would do stuff like this back in the day, but they would weave it in to be part of the story, and that wouldn't be the whole focus. And oh, I tried to read current day X Men. I can't.
I
I
haven't
read
read any of it, just
don't
because I don't have time,
Well,
but,
keep not having time. Even when you have time, don't have time. But
so yeah, that's just, like, what I try to focus on in my illustration is just depicting joy in Black people because we do have so much negative. I just want to create something that spreads positivity. I
mhm,
remember in college I just remember irritating my professors because my artist statement was always something around, I just want to spread positivity. I want people to be happy. And they would kind of tell me that, well, that's not good enough.
mm,
But I think that's a completely valid goal as a creative
mhm,
is wanting to spread something that is positive because we live in a world where we can't escape the news. The news follows you wherever you go now.
mhm,
And there's just so much negativity. So I want to create that positive space, that breather for someone. And if I can create a little bit of positivity for just one little girl anywhere on this earth, then I have done my job and I'm happy.
yes, yes, I could not agree more, and honestly, that is more than a valid enough reason to want to create. Like, honestly, I can't think of a better reason, honestly, than to want to uplift people, make them feel good about themselves. The fact that when I create my characters, sometimes when I'm feeling down, they lift me up. And knowing that, someday soon, other people might feel like that about my characters. That motivates me to keep going, even when I have valid reasons not to. As I'm so sure the same is for you. Like, you think of someone, some little girl picking up this book for the first time and flipping through it and just being amazed, or she can't wait to get home. The first thing she does when she get home is she just pulls out this book, pulls out the crayon box that has like 15,000 crayons from like all different companies and a random marker that's probably halfway dried out by now because of course. And then she just goes to town on this thing. And she shows her parents and it's the best thing ever. And they take a page out and like put it on the refrigerator. Like that, the idea of that happening, that makes me feel good, honestly. That
Yeah.
makes me feel good. That heartwarming, just wholesome, just feel good stuff that honestly we desperately need more of. We've had more of enough of everything being doomer and everything being political, and even the stuff that we want to use to escape being made these things. We need some stuff that's just, nah, I just kind of want to see black girl astronaut with purple hair floating around Saturn.
Right.
Perfectly valid.
Just
That's
want to see
perfectly
a little
valid.
black girl snorkeling, swimming with
Mhm.
turtles, there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
Nope.
Like, we can have that. We can have all of that. Just gotta make
Exactly.
it.
You just have to make it, man. And you are making it. And I am super glad that you are making it. And I know you're going to keep making it. And I'm super glad to have had you on. Before I end this, I do want to ask, um, no, not counting the stuff that we can't talk about, not counting the unmentionables. What else do you have out here for folks to pick up from you, and where can we find you?
I don't have too much, I'm gonna be honest with you. But so there's Black Girls Are Magic, that's out right now. And I do have a few prints for sale, and the links to my work that I do have for sale are all on my website at drawdanny.com. You can find all of my stuff, all my links there.
Awesome, awesome. So y'all heard it here. Drawdanny.com. Go through there, check out all of it. I have my own copy of Black Girls Are Magic, and I don't even have a daughter yet, hopefully. But any tiny person who like the color, this book will be great. But definitely if you have a little black girl in your life, I feel like you can't go wrong. Can't go wrong at all with it. And you had definitely go check out some of Danny's other stuff. I've seen a lot of her work, a lot of her prints. It has this quality of just wholesomeness. It's soft. It just makes you feel good just looking at it. I would love, honestly, to have a piece in my house. I probably will at some point soon, and definitely go through there and check it out. Danielle's kind of not super ultra social media person, so are you on Twitter? I don't think you're on Twitter.
Yes, you can follow me. Once again, all those links are on my website. So the fastest and easiest way to find all of that is just to hit up drawdanny.com, and I link everything there. My portfolio, all of my work is there. That's just sort of the hub for all things Danielle.
Awesomeness. So y'all heard it. Go ahead, go through to drawdanny.com. Find all the links. You can find yourself a copy that you can pick up of Black Girls Are Magic. You can find her prints, her social media links, everything that is accessible to Danielle is there. And that's going to be it for us today. Thank y'all for watching and listening. And thank you, Danielle, to coming through and chatting it up with your boy on Unsigned Hype. And we will be back later with another creator or creation that desperately needs eyes. Oh, and by the way, also remember Danielle is the voice of Catherine Scarlett. So this is most definitely not the last time you will hear her voice. You will hear it again because she's the perfect voice for Catherine. I can't hear her. I can't hear
Oh,
Catherine as any other voice at this point.
thank you. That means a lot.
So that's gonna be it for us now. So I'm Anime, and we will talk to y'all later. Deuces.